Okay, so I last stopped at basically my tech school experience, and so I was talking to somebody, like I had mentioned, and he had lived in Arizona, and basically we were planning on being together, and as we were finding out our duty stations, I got Arizona, and it was only an hour from where he lived, so I was like, wow, like this is God, like, And I remember people all got Japan besides me and my other classmate, and he was also going to Arizona with me. And it was kind of funny because I was like, everybody was like, "Hey, let's switch. You want Japan, right? Like, you want to go to Japan?" And yeah, thinking back on it, if I didn't talk to that guy or I wasn't talking to that guy, I would have easily switched to Japan. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. But since I was talking to that guy, I was like, no, like, I'm gonna go be with this guy. Like, he's everything that I had been praying for. And, yeah. I went home for Christmas, and when I went home for Christmas, we all had a lot to drink, and my mom kind of was ugly towards me because me and her mom bumped heads a lot because I just knew like she was ugly and would always turn like our family against each other, and I just knew that wasn't right. And she would talk down on my sister's body, our images. Like I just knew my grandma was lost and you know just being ugly for no reason, and I would call her out, and me and my grandma always bumped heads. But growing up like a little girl, like me and my grandma were like that until like I started gravitating towards more my grandpa because my grandpa like loved me for who I was, but my grandma always judged and called us names. So that's kind of like why I would tell her, I was like, Mom, like that's just not who I want to look up to. And two, my grandma was always like, find a man who takes care of you, blah 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 blah. Like like that's cool and all, but like nowadays men are ugly, like And yeah, I wish my grandma would have been like, no, let's pray, let's do all that, but it was always ugliness. And like I wish too my grandpa would have taught me more of the Bible and guided me more. But no, I feel like I didn't have no guidance. And so I was always just listening to my intuition and knowing God was on my side always. And it all makes sense. And I've always been like pure hearted, or I've always tried to be like, my purest. And there's times where I failed and I got back up. And I just remember wanting to leave a day or two early, and I could have stayed longer at my mom's, but I was like, I gotta go. This is toxic. This is the reason why I joined the military, because like we're trying to have a good time, and then my mom's just yelling at me, like I'm literally about to go to bed, and I was crying because I'm just like, dude, this is why I don't want to be here. Like, this is the main reason why I don't want to be around y'all. And I'm just crying, and my mom's just at the door yelling at me for hours. I don't even know how long it lasted. And I was just like, I just remember like, damn, do I leave tonight? Do I leave tonight? No, I'm too drunk, like. So the next day, I'm just in the room, just crying in bed, and I'm just like, this is my life. I was like, I'm scared to move states, but I have to. I mean, obviously, I signed a contract. This is my life now. But, like, I really didn't have nowhere else to go. And my family don't love me. My grandpa, he did love me, but, like, I knew God was calling me to do this. So I had to. I had to do it. And my mom was begging. She was like, can I just please go with you to make sure you make it there safe? And I just told her, I was like, well, you just gotta bring your backpack because I ain't gonna have no room. And so I packed up my car, and it was a Camaro at the time. And I just remember like the whole car ride, it was kind of silent. It was kind of sad. Honestly, I just it hurts me knowing all that happened, but I just wish my mom would have been like, I'm sorry. She just, every time we would fight, she just moved on and acted like it was nothing, or she was just like, can we move on? It was never like, I'm sorry for treating you that way. So like that's what truly hurts me the most, because like all the fights we have, it was never like, it was always my fault. Like, my mom never took accountability. Like, maybe I was wrong, maybe this, you know. It's just like months or years later, she's just telling me, oh, like, she's like this, she's like that. Maybe you were not. Maybe I was right, but she's portraying it that way. But she doesn't realize that yes, I was right. It kind of hurts, but yeah. I just don't like, the way my grandma made us feel growing up. And like you could tell, like anytime we would tell my grandma anything, she would spread it to everyone. Like, when I tell my grandma things, like I would confide it in her, and I wish it wasn't getting spread, but it was. And it just hurts because it's like, as I stood my ground, like, my mom couldn't even support that, And like, yes, my mom supported me financially growing up. Like, I appreciate that 1,000%. But like emotionally, she was never available. And not even my dad. My dad was never in the picture. But my grandpa, he really did guide me towards, the the righteous way. So I always knew God was around and always there for me because of my grandpa. He really did make it known. Like, I knew my grandpa was at peace. The way he lived, the way he stood his ground, and the way he led my grandma to God. Like, that was a righteous man. And that's always who I used to tell everybody. I want a man like my grandpa. I want a man like my dad. I want a man like my dad. Because I knew my dad's heart was pure. I knew it. He was saved by God. You could tell. I could feel it. And so, as I'm driving to Arizona, I make it there. As soon as I make it to Phoenix, the guy ghosts me. And it broke my heart, honestly, because it's like, dang, like, I could have been in Japan. And I know God did that for a reason, because if I didn't go to Arizona, I wouldn't have had the life that was planned for me. So he put a guy and planted, that to where I would go to Arizona. Like, I already know it. I know it's God. And so now looking back, obviously, but in that moment I was so hurt. I was just crying and crying and crying, because I was like, wow, like, fuck. I'm so embarrassed. I was really sad. But I had to act like I wasn't. And so I get to my duty station, I meet my sponsor, and she's showing me around, and I couldn't even enjoy it because of how sad I was. I was so hurt. And like, too, like, the guy was like, oh yeah, I'm talking to someone else. And like, he was telling me that he was basically like sexting other women. And it kind of hurt my fucking heart, because I'm like, wow, like, I'm telling y'all, when I was in tech school, I was just in my book. I was being very faithful. I was literally like, this is my guy. Like, I know it is. Especially when God like told me, like, not told me he was my man, but he made it to where I was going to Arizona so I could be with him, close to him. And nope. God said nope. As soon as I make it to Phoenix, nope. He ghosted me. Like, yes, he told me, I'm talking to other women. Yes, he told me all that. But he ghosted me. And I felt so alone. And when my mom dropped me off, I just remember being in my dorm and I had like a really bad period that would not stop. Like, I was bleeding so bad. And I didn't get help. I was just sitting on the toilet, bleeding out, and it got to the point where I made it to I just was in the bath, and I was just sitting there just crying for hours and hours. And then my roommate knocked on my door, and she goes, hey, I have food for you, or not for you, but do you want to eat? And I'm like, wow. I was like, dang, God has someone here for me, right? I was like, thank you, like, I'll eat. And so I get up, I put my tampon in my pad so I didn't bleed. And then I don't even know why I was bleeding so much, but I was bleeding through my uniforms. Like, it was like within 30 minutes. I was thinking it was all the stress I was going through. But I was scared, and I didn't even go to a doctor because I'm like, honestly, I was doing everything alone. I was so scared. But my roommate knocked, she was like, hey, you need anything? I have food. I made food for everybody. And I was like, thank you. I really needed that. I did it. I really did. I didn't even realize how much I needed them. And if you're watching this, thank you so much. You have no idea how much I needed that.